Welcome to An Aries and Pisces Walk Into a Coffee Shop, the podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Bridget, she, her.
And I'm Tiffany, she, her. This is a podcast where two friends let go of perfectionism and talk unedited. You can find us at the links in our show notes.
Support the show by buying us a coffee. Also, subscribe and share this episode with a friend. It's tradition. It's tradition for me to panic to click the right button when we begin. Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
That really got
me.
100%
success rate so far.
Thank you. That came up for me. Was it today? Was it yesterday? I was
made up.
Worrying about something in my brain that was not a real thing that's happening, right? And I'm like, I don't need to worry about this. Has it literally ever happened? And I was like, no, like I'm trying to think of what it was. I don't know. I want to say it was something in the kitchen or some, I don't know.
I love that you can't remember. I feel like that's indicative of the whole thing you're talking about.
Right? But it's a thing that pops up in my head enough that it always, it's just like pervasive. And and I was telling myself like, what, it's not even, have I ever even done this thing? Like, no, it's never happened. So why do I need to keep worrying about it like it's like about to happen?
That reminds me about something that someone was sharing about intrusive thoughts. I think they were sharing about their OCD experience, but symptoms overlap with everything. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's like the brain's way of trying to self-soothe, but it's not helpful. Mm-hmm. It's disruptive.
Yeah. And I'm like, I think I
have some of those too.
Yeah, even if the thing had happened in the past once, it doesn't mean it's going to happen again. But also, here's the thing of, it's not a problem right now. So if it does happen, I'll handle it in the moment when it happens.
Yeah. I was also just talking about this in a more, I think, concrete way about the idea of, I had a couple of nice progress markers to review because this month was so long. So much happened this month. And I was thinking about that idea of, for the first time in a long time, I consistently had that feeling of, well, and then I'll handle it. And that was like a new thought that felt like, normally I have to talk myself into that thought.
Yeah.
But I had the beautiful reaction, and I think I was just because I was too tired, that there's too much going on. So like the next thing would come up, I'm like, well, you already committed and you're going to follow through. So you'll figure it out. If you're in a pain flare or too tired or didn't get the costume together in time or forgot to answer that text message, I was just like, well, then I'll deal with whatever as I can in the moment and figure it out, because I figured it out before. And I was like, oh, that's what confidence feels like.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she's doing a little nervous. However, I was like, it's not going to be exactly maybe what I imagined. But is it ever?
No. Yeah. No. Ooh. That's good.
This month has been a really good self-esteem boost.
Okay. I'll take it. I'll take that for you.
On like personal and creative fronts.
Yeah.
It's been nice.
Shoot. That's what I've been working on in therapy. In
Same.
An EMDR adjacent thing, like not diving into an EMDR target, but instead reinforcing positive beliefs. Oh, what is the word I always forget. I always forget the word.
Are you using the word resourcing for that? Or is it something different?
It is that, but there's a word that she uses that
You're going
I
to have to get
never,
back to me because I'm
yeah,
curious.
I never think.
Because me and my EMDR therapist call it resourcing when we're.
Maybe it's resourcing. Maybe it's that. And I just don't think of it. I think it's resourcing. I think that's it. It's gotta be. It's gotta be. So we were resourcing creativity.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. And I had some interesting insights come up around that.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the way of getting introspective and breaking down, right? Like, what are the characteristics that I see in people that I think that's a creative person and that's what I want in my life, right? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
about that is like inspiring or aspirational, or what are the like, and breaking all of that down. And I came up with some interesting things.
Mm. Ooh, okay. I want to think about that for myself too. Okay.
Yeah, because
One of
then
the.
it, so,
Go ahead.
well, the next like layer on that was like, once I broke that down, um, then I looked at it under the lens of, well, how are those things already true in my life?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think like inspiration was one, or it's something else. And I was like, well, how is it true that I'm already inspirational? And then I had like concrete examples came to me in the week as I was, where somebody literally said out loud, oh, you're such an inspiration, or like, oh, this was so, and I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So it was like, I got to like break it down and then see, like, recognize that. And then I recognized things even further. And
Mm-hmm.
this would be easier to talk with concrete examples, but they're not in my head right now.
Well, it actually makes me think of the workshop you sent me from P the Fairy,
Mm-hmm.
where it was listed as the word stepping stones is coming into my head, but that's not
Bridges.
bridges. Thank you. I
Yeah.
was like, stepping stones is my thing. What
Yeah.
was her thing? Bridges. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that like, okay, how do you get closer to the
Mm-hmm.
belief or the goal?
Mm-hmm.
And this sounds a lot like that. What
I
was
think
the example that she used?
I think probably that workshop, that helped me in moving through this.
Yeah. Well, it's all related. Everything's
Yeah.
related.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that really, I like this framework for it too. Because, well, like I told you with that workshop, I had to like code switch a lot because it was
Mm-hmm.
centered on the word business, which
Mm-hmm.
I have some uh, difficulty connecting with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was using the word creativity to
Mm.
like get into the material. Cause like as she was saying it cognitively, I was like, yes, of course. But I kept on finding myself like not able to like sink into it in the way that I wanted because the word business kept on tripping me up.
Yeah.
But then when I really started thinking about it as creativity, then that was my way of being able to like think about it more like applicably. And what you're talking about with the EMDR of it all sounds like an even deeper layer.
Mm-hmm.
I love how things inform other things. This is great.
Yeah. One of the surprising things that came up was that I initially like held a belief and then I challenged it and I was like, oh, wait a second. Because it was, I think like
Mm.
the one of the first things that came up was that creative people, I look at them and I think like, oh, they know what they want to make. They know what they want it to look like. They
Uh,
know right? They hold this like confidence in like they know all of this stuff. And then I was like, time out. How many conversations have we had around this? I was like, that's not the case for anybody, right?
no.
It's just like, I feel like I need to create this thing and I am confident enough in what I'm feeling, my abilities, like I'm confident enough in this shred of an idea to pursue it. and to
Mhm.
see what happens and to like stay curious and let it unfold, and it's all in the process, right? And like all of these things like start like falling in. I'm like, oh yeah, it's all of that stuff.
Right.
Like, yeah. And I was like, isn't that interesting?
Mhm. Because I've gotten stuck in that belief too, which made it so that I wasn't creating because I was seeing this either one, I wanted to have a very clear end goal, and that's just not how you get an end goal a lot of the
Hmm.
times. Or, well, both. Okay. So I wanted to have a clear end goal. And so either I was like, oh, I know what I want, and then I don't know how to get there, so I don't ever even try. Or um I stunt my own creativity because then I don't allow myself to play and explore what it could look like.
Mm.
I get a little too rigid in, well, it has to look this way because that's how I thought. And then I'm not creating, I'm just fighting myself.
Yeah.
So, and it's so funny because I've been literally learning this lesson my whole life because I've written since I was a kid. And for me, writing has I've never been a blue point, blueprint, like map it out person. I'm just like, huh, I have a line that sounds interesting to me, or like a character that I'm curious about, or a concept. And like then I just free write. Like
Yeah.
I that's how I've always worked. And it's so funny to me how pervasive those like erroneous beliefs are because I've literally been practicing this since I was a kid and I still am fucking it up. Isn't being human great?
Like like thinking that you need to do it another certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
getting stuck in the same thought trap and having to release myself from that trap
Yeah.
over and over and
Right. Of like,
again.
why don't I just let myself do it the way that it works for me, that I've been
Yeah,
doing
why do
it, and
I
that's
keep on
okay. Like,
stepping in that trap? Like I
yeah.
know it's there. I've been doing this for so long. But I still keep at it. And it does get easier. I mean, I guess the progress point is I step in it less often and it takes me a less amount of time to get out of it.
Yeah.
And I limp less after I get out of it.
That's so good.
Usually. There have been some times where, maybe not the case, but what is that phrase? Healing is not linear. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of that.
Well, here's a fucking prime example that could have just washed over me,
Hmm.
but it has popped into my head. That the other day I was feeling depressive moods, thoughts, all the things coming on. But now at this point in my life, I have all of these introspective processes and everything, right? And so I could very quickly dig into it and be like, what's underneath of this? What am I really feeling? What's really going
Mm,
on? And I'm like, okay, it's all of these same things that I've been thinking about, that I've been working on. It's all of that. All I need to do is just keep doing what I'm doing. Eventually it'll shift. I'm like, of
mm,
course, I don't want to fucking hear that. I don't want to just keep going, just keep doing what I'm doing. I want it to all be better and fixed and amazing now so that I can
mhm.
enjoy my life now. But, like I've installed all of these things that I'm like, nope, now is the only moment that I have. It's today. I make the best of today. And that's where I think that I texted you um, that I was like, I'm tired of having miserable days. And so now I'm going to adopt the phrase that I'm going to make today my bitch, because I'm tired of today making me its bitch.
Yep.
And then I'm like, that was literally just the other day.
Mhm.
And I'm like, today it's not even here anymore. It's that big
Mm.
heavy, like, you know how like depression is just that, like, it's a big heavy, feels like it's just all consuming,
Yes.
and it doesn't have that kind of hold on me anymore for as long, right?
Mm.
It was only
Yeah.
that like chunk of time, and here we are a couple days later, and I am looking back on that and being like, wait a second, this is a huge celebration.
Yeah.
of, you know, of all of my resourcing and
Mm.
being able to move through something like that. And yeah.
Yes, that embodiment of agency. Like,
Mm,
you have a choice.
mm-hmm.
And I think that, at least for me, that is my big marker of like, oh, this isn't just like a low or a sad. This is depression. When I have the thought of like, I can't do anything
Yeah.
about this. It's
Yeah.
like, this is just my
Yeah.
lot in life. I have no choice. Like, this is just what it is. And I'm like, oh, ding, 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 honey, darling.
I
It's
get
the
to
depression.
choose. Yeah.
That's what's happening to you. Yeah.
Yeah. And also the like, I get to choose. And knowing that and knowing that it's going to change and shift and it's here for a reason, right? It's here to
Mm,
indicate, it's here to tell us something. And no being as resourced as I am and as practiced as I am and looking at this example, it still doesn't change the fact of how big it feels in the moment and how much
of
I
course.
don't want to choose something different.
Hmm.
I'm like, it's too hard. This is too hard. Why does choosing something different have to feel so hard? And it's still that big.
Hmm.
However, I'm able to choose differently and I'm able to do differently. And
Mm,
it's not as big over me anymore. Like this is
yes.
all just like, wow, that I'm like in the moment, it still feels exactly as it's always felt, right? In
Hmm.
any depressive moment or story of my life, it still feels the same.
Hmm.
It's not like it's not like it's like, oh, depression's here at whatever. No, it
Yeah.
still feels like it's the end of the fucking world.
Uh-huh. Oh,
I
yeah, because I
just
go through a whole grief process. Like when I finally realize, oh, this is the depression back. Like I go through the again. Is this just going to be like this forever where it just pops
yeah.
up again?
Uh-huh.
And so far the answer is yeah, but it's different every time.
Right. Right. And you get through it, right? You handle it. You do the things and then it is different every time. Like we've never had this conversation before where I'm like, wow, what a fucking celebration. Look at that.
Mm,
I would have brushed it off and not even noticed that that was a thing that I did that was something to be proud of had we not been sitting here
yeah.
having this conversation.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, I love doing this with you.
Me too. Wow. I have a good cake update that
Mhm.
I've been waiting to tell you, and it has to do with ice cubes and microdosing chaos.
Give it to me.
And have we talked about that on here? The ice cubes?
Oh, great
Oh,
question. Oh,
there we go. We get
okay.
okay.
A thumbs up.
Uh,
I honestly don't know. It feels impossible that we haven't. However, I have no clear memory. So,
would you
you want
like
to
to
give
give?
up
I want you to give a quick rundown of the exercise.
a very dear friend of mine messaged me to let me know that one of the ways in which they microdose chaos to allow themselves to practice it in all other aspects of their life is instead of taking an ice cube in order out of the ice tray, they just randomly pop ice cubes out of the ice tray because it's like out of the norm. It's not the right way to do something. And for some people, it's uncomfortable. And so they're like, this is how I microdose chaos. They have a couple of different practices, but this is my, I think, favorite one.
It's also a favorite, and I'm glad that you told me about it because it has been a very valuable exercise in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a very good exercise in being able to withstand discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
It's low stakes.
yeah, low stakes. Um, my ice cube trays, well, here's the thing. I was like, I think that, so I've got the silicone ice cube trays, and they have absorbed the taste smell of the freezer,
Oh, yeah.
and it has affected the ice cubes from it.
Mhm.
Because I took a big glass of water and filled it up with ice cubes in my car when it was like 95 degrees, and my water tasted awful.
Oh, no.
And so I was like, "Oh my God, I'm putting these ice cubes in all of my like herbal teas. I'm putting it in my smoothies. And I'm like, I don't want this anymore." And I knew that this was a thing because in the past I bought those silicone reusable Ziploc bags because I wanted to keep frozen fruit in them for my smoothies in the
Mhm.
freezer. But they did the same thing. And I quickly had to
Mm.
be like, these are basically rendered useless. And I've tried all the tricks to get the smell and taste like out of them before. Um, and so I was like, you know what? I'm not fucking doing this anymore. I want good tasting ice. I want good tasting water. I want good tasting beverages. Like I'm done. I took them out of my freezer. I laid them face down in the sink to let the ice just like melt out. And I was like, maybe I'll do it one more time. I'll put them in the dishwasher tonight and see what happens. But then the whole day went through and I still have my old plastic ice cube trays
Mhm.
from my apartment
Whoa.
that I have saved because I use them to freeze, like if I get like pineapple in a can or something and like the
Yeah.
juice. So I'll like freeze stuff like that or like coconut milk or something. And I was like, I'm going to make ice in here, see how it is, because these never absorb that like
Mhm.
freezery whatever. And so I did that, and the ice was just like so much better and clearer. And just, this morning, the silicone trays were in the sink still.
Yeah.
I just threw them straight in the trash. And it
That's so
felt
weird for you.
wild. It felt wild. And what I have noticed now using the hard plastic tray, with the silicone one, you can pop the ice out really
Yeah.
easily from wherever you want. And that's something that I really liked about it. Also, it made perfect cubes, the shape that I had, perfect cubes,
Yeah.
loved it. Um, the hard plastic one I have is more of kind of like a oval with a
Mhm.
flat shape. Anyway, what I realized was if you have that hard tray, you just kind of have to like twist it and see where they pop out. And I was
Mm.
like, this changes my whole practice of microdosing chaos in this way, because with that tray and the way that it's designed and just the way that it works to get a cube out easily, it just comes out randomly.
Right.
And so the notion that I would be taking it out in order isn't even there.
The choice is
So
gone.
the choice is gone. So it's like it's not even a thing, or it's not even unusual, or it's not even uncomfortable to take it out of anywhere in the tray, because that's just how that works. And now I'm like, my whole practice is gone. What do I do now? Like I
But it's also so meta because the choice is gone. It's like, bitch, you don't get to choose chaos. Chaos chooses you.
but like it doesn't even feel like chaos.
Right, because it's
Like
just a
cuz it's just
matter,
that's how it is. And
but that's
so
literally how it is.
yeah, like that's so I'm like, isn't that fascinating that it's the same thing, right? Making ice and choosing ice out of a container. However, one of them feels uncomfortable because I have to do it in a certain way, and the other one is just I've accepted this is how this works, but it's the same thing.
This is so meta. I cannot wait to tell my friend.
Ugh. I bet that they never saw this happening, right? This
It's evolving.
it's a they never knew when they started this and shared it just how far it would go.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I'm going to be thinking about that so much because that's been a big part of my practice is the idea of like letting go of this false idea that I can control all the things and
Mm-hmm.
make it the way I want. Like there are just things you have to let go of and accept. And this is a beautiful example of like when it could be easy.
Right. It could be so easy that the acceptance.
Right.
There's no friction. There's no, discomfort. There's none of that.
Because if there was, then that would seem disordered.
Yeah.
Like if you had, which is so funny because with the silicone thing, like other people are like, that's so disordered to be popping it out all randomly. Just go in order like a normal person. But then with like the other tray, like you said, like it would be really weird if you were spending too much energy
trying to pull it out in order. Yeah. I'm like, I'm taking whatever this fucking thing's giving me today.
Yeah. Oh, this is such a good metaphor for life. Oh, I did not see this coming.
Me either. What a crazy turn of events.
I love it. I'm going to be thinking about that so much. And I actually, this is timely too, because I had this thought. I was looking for something in one of my doom closets. All the closets are doom closets. And
wait a second. A doom closet. I think I have one. And I did not know that that's just what closets are.
Have you ever heard the phrase doom box?
No.
Okay, so I think I learned this from my friend Belinda. It had to have been Belinda because she's my ADHD go-to, where she sends me all the memes. And I don't know if it was an online thing or a Belinda thing. Anyway, Belinda used this phrase with me, and then I started seeing it on the online as well. So ADHD folks have like a doom box where it's just like, it's a place where all the nonsense goes that you don't know what to do with. And because you have ADHD, it has to go somewhere. You're trying.
Yeah.
So instead of having it out, it goes all in one box. Well, I have multiples of those, and
their closets.
And then all my closets turn into that because the new apartment, while I love it, is an old building and the closets make no sense. So there's no ease in organizing them. So all of my closets have turned into doom closets, with vague, like, I kind of know where certain types of things are, but they're all shoved in a corner of a closet and it's hard to get to. Anyway, I was looking for something in one of those. And I had the thought, oh, I used to think that there was a lot more in here. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm realizing there's not. I could probably clean this out. And then I was like, maybe I'll start with this one corner. And I pulled out like 3 things and I was like, but I don't know what to do with them. And I can't throw them away. So I put them back. And I was like, oh, this is how this happened.
Yeah. That's the fucking worst. Can I tell you that that's the worst? When you're like, oh yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to clean this out. I'm going to do it. And then you start looking at the things and you're like, but I don't know what the fuck to do with these things. And so I put them right back and then that's that. And then you feel bad about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's been me for a year here in this apartment.
I mean, that's been me my whole life.
Okay, well, yeah, if you're going to call me out, yeah, this is my whole life. But this particular example has been a year in this apartment.
I see.
How dare you?
I see. Oops.
Oh, God. It's so hard being a human.
We're doing so good. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. I was saying today to Luke that today is a really good day. And then I noticed something interesting that I put on to that because I very quickly internally was like, wait a second, I was like, today is a very good day because it's today. Because I was remembering that other day where I was having a really, really challenging time. But I was like, today is a good day because it's today. It's the only day that I have. So I'm going to do with it the best that I can. And so because I didn't want to, I had a few things go really well today. And I didn't want to attribute that today was a great day because of those external events.
Oh,
I
yes,
just,
that shift.
yeah. So I wanted to be like, I need to catch this both ways, of not that it's a really bad day because I'm having a challenging mood. No, it's just today
Mm-hmm.
and I'm having a challenging mood. So today is just today, and some really great things have happened. And like, isn't that a great bonus on top of
Oh,
today's a
yes.
great day because it's
Bonus.
today? Bonus,
Oh,
bonus stars.
yes. I love this reframing. I was just having this conversation, but like in a different context. And it's actually making me think of um, Victoria Albina,
Mm-hmm.
who does like the somatic resourcing stuff where in the nervous system resets. She was talking about oh, sorry, my brain just stopped. Um
I watched your mouth move, but like nothing was coming out, and I was like,
it
this
got
is
stuck.
fascinating.
I do not want to look at that later.
I do. I think it's great.
I call it getting stuck. I had a bunch of thoughts at once and it's like all the words crowd because they're all excited to come out, but then
Yeah.
I can't because they have to be one at a time. So I had to reorder. She uses the phrase good cake, which is like so funny because you use it in the way of changing subject.
Uh-huh.
And she uses it in the way of explaining that you are the cake and anything else is frosting. So like you're always
Huh.
fine because you have you.
Uh-huh.
You're the nourishment, you're the treat, you're the cake. And
Uh-huh.
then anything external is just set dressing and frosting and decoration. And like you're still an incredible cake. It's just now you
Uh-huh.
have all this extra stuff and that's nice. And so that feels like what you're talking about, but applied to a bigger
Mm-hmm.
context of like time and being alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels really good to think about because it feels less daunting that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then we're not relying on external things to tell us if we're having like a good or a bad day.
Ooh, this is, I think, something I'm going to have to think about a lot more because I've been really struggling with the idea of how to lay judgments to rest. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is very related to that. Like, as like being alive in society, especially capitalist
Mm-hmm.
society, there's judgments and quantifiers for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the idea of like, oh, being corporeal and waking up and being alive and like having all of the world be as it is, like that's the cake. That's great. Everything else is just added bonus.
Yeah.
And so if things don't go brilliantly, that doesn't have to derail us.
Right. It's all just data, right? As
Yeah.
we like to say.
Uh-huh.
That's it. Like everything, like this is very power of now to me,
Yes.
like in my brain of if of that it's every situation is neutral. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
situation. It's just the judgments that we're putting upon it
Right.
and how we're choosing to look at it and what we're choosing to do with it.
Ooh, interesting. This feels like like I can't quite grasp it all the time, but I'm starting to grasp it more because then the shadow side of that is like bypassing yourself, right? So
Mm-hmm.
instead of allowing yourself
Mm-hmm.
to like acknowledge things or feel through things, just like jumping to dismissing it.
Yeah.
But this is like that beautiful balance point of like, no, you can feel the things and acknowledge it and know that. And also, in the deeper levels, feel supported and fine and assured.
Yeah. It's the I think that it's the struggle of acceptance and surrender
Yes. Mm-hmm.
because it's the like, and then that's what you hear a lot of people talk about within surrendering to accepting the current situation is not, you're not dismissing it. You're not saying that it doesn't, like, you know, exist or whatever, but
Well, again, it's the letting go of the judgments. Like, oh, I
yeah,
shouldn't be feeling this,
yeah,
so I'm gonna think or try to feel this other way. It's
right.
dropping that judgment.
Yeah.
And yeah, that level of acceptance. Oh, that's juicy. Mm. Okay, I'm gonna be thinking about that a lot more. I thought I had nothing to talk about today.
I love that you just like giggled and then went right into saying that. Oh my goodness. Today I actually don't have that thought. I feel like, oh my God, I can't stop talking. Like
Mm.
I'm just like, oh, today is a I've got to have conversations today.
Oh, good.
Yeah, which that's a funny thing for me to notice, me thinking,
Yeah.
because at the same time in the middle of conversation, it's still there of,
Yeah.
well, fuck it, this is it. That's it. I don't have anything else to say in this moment. But then literally a second later, it's
You do, in fact, have a lot to say. Yeah. And
goddamn.
brilliantly,
Wow.
insightfully, articulately.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm thinking about that word juicy. I think that I said the word juicy and then you said the word juicy, but I think that earlier today, juicy came up and I'm like, this is a good vibe.
I like that as a theme. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, juicy.
Yes, correct.
Yes, correct. I would like to read you this card. Speaking of juicy,
Yes, please.
I have pulled today from the second edition of the Pythia Botanica deck, Pear Tree, and it
Mm.
is Bitten Folly.
Ooh.
And this deck is still very new to me. I'm still learning her. And I can't even tell you how many times I've pulled this card and I'm like, motherfucker, this card wants me to know something. This
It's like,
card
stop putting
really.
me back. We have things to say and lessons to impart.
Yeah. Okay. So, pear tree is Bitten Folly, a tree bearing fruit sacred to Hera, Aphrodite, and Pomona that holds the sustenance one needs to relinquish one from the shame of past mistakes. Let our folly be fodder for our crops to bloom.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, bitch,
Okay.
you want me to let go of all of these fucking judgments and beating myself up over all of these things in my life? Because literally that's the shit that has just grown me into who I am today. And none of it really like truly matters on like the level that all of the negative thoughts say that it matters. Like
Mm.
you want me to quit doing that to myself?
Oh,
That's what it feels like to me.
yeah, I agree. That is very juicy. Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
love that it's a pear. That feels so
Yeah.
supportive.
I think of you every time I pull it,
Oh,
and I don't think I've sent it to you for some reason.
no,
I
you
think
haven't. And
I
I'm really
think
glad that you read it to me.
I think that like sometimes I go back and forth when I like pull cards or get messages or something like that, and I have done this and we have talked about this before where I'm like, oh, I pull this and I'm like, oh, fuck, I got to send this to Tiffany. But then part of me is like, oh no, no, don't, like, don't,
I always want to hear from you.
yeah, something in me is like, no, like, no, don't, I and then part of me has learned if you get the thought or the feeling, just do the thing, just reach out, just send the thing, just ask the question, just I think part of me
Mm-hmm.
feels like I'm going to be like pestering or it's not interesting or the person doesn't want to answer my question or whatever it is. So I have been practicing this for years now. But I think that maybe part of it has been each time I have pulled the card, I have thought of you, but I have been like, this message is for me.
Yeah, but that's fun for you to share with me too.
Yeah.
Because like I
Interesting.
like talking about things that are unrelated to me.
Okay. Okay.
So you're like, hey, I pulled this card for myself 3 times. Isn't that
Mm.
interesting? And I'd be like,
Mm.
yeah, it is. Let's talk about it. Juicy.
Okay. 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 Yep. Okay. All right. This goes back to something I was thinking about this morning that was pervasively eating away at me. That is a belief that I am self-centered and I only care about myself. And
Mm-hmm.
I quickly got to the center of that. I was like, oh, well, that was very reinforced to me in a traumatic atmosphere for
Yes.
many years. So of course that, and put on me that I was like that, and that was the reason for their suffering. And of course, then I developed codependent tendencies where I really only am caring literally about
Yep.
everybody and everything else to my detriment.
Right.
But beyond that, I am a very compassionate person. I really care about other people. So, like separating all of those bits and pieces and realizing that, like, none of that is true about me. Uh, anyway,
Yeah, accurate. That is not true.
um, so yeah, next time I think about you, I'll just go ahead and reach out and see what happens, even though it doesn't. I think that it was like when I pull a card and I feel like, oh, this is for Tiffany, I send it to
Mm,
Tiffany. Or like,
right.
oh, I think that you would get something out of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that because it was the thought, I'm thinking
Oh, did I
about you,
lose you?
but this is for me, then I just am like,
Yep.
I just keep that to me. But isn't that
Which is totally
fascinating?
fine if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, but isn't that
But
fascinating
I
that
would
you're
like it if
you're
you send it
sitting
to me.
across from me and you're like, yeah, but I want to know the things that are just for you too.
Yeah. I
Because
would love
I
that.
want to know that about you. I'm always asking you, like, what's going on in your life? Like, tell me about your dates. What are you going out and doing? Like, just tell,
Yeah.
just duh, Bridget. Okay.
Oh, brains are so funny.
There's something.
We're
There's
doing a really good
something.
job.
We are. We are doing a really good job.